Hi, my name is Becka Bradshaw. I am a Villa Ambassador, and I am here to talk to you about how to blend your barber cuts and your pixie cuts. This is something that I see all the time in the salon. I'm both a cosmetologist and a barber, so I wanted to give a couple hot tips and tricks that are going to make your blending of these cuts just so much easier. Let's get into it. So if you're anything like me, a lot of times what we do is we do a lot of finger work with a little shape like this. And then once we get to the point where we need to kind of blend it out or make it a little bit more square, we run into some challenges. So I want to first of all point out what we're going to be working with here is right around the parietal ridge. So if you see this part of your guest's head where it starts to change direction, that is the parietal ridge. So we're going to work right within where the head changes direction. So here is a hot tip. If you are somebody that is a little bit more nervous about doing scissor over comb in this area, you can grab a great big barber comb, just like this. And you can also grab your reversible blending shear. So this reversible blending shear has several teeth on it. You're going to want to keep the teeth facing up and down, and you're going to want to work through that area of the head in order to blend out any weight lines. So as you can see right here, we've got a little bit of a weight line. We're going to work around the whole head and we're going to blend out that weight line. The comb is going to come in. You're going to grab the hair. You're going to travel up to the area where you see that you've got a little bit of weight, and then the comb and the shear is going to move at the same time on the way up to remove that weight line. This is such a hot tip, foolproof way. You can already see that the hair here is starting to get blended and lay down. So we're just going to continue working through that part of the parietal ridge right here. And as you can see, we're working with hair that is nearly dry. So that nearly dry will allow you to see exactly where you need to be removing that weight, so you won't remove too much weight as we're moving along. I'm going to continue working on this for a second. All right, final hot tip for the reversible blending shear. As you can see right in through here, we've got our final weight line. What we want to do when we're working with the reversible blending shear is we want to be very careful about what direction those teeth are being pointed. So if you can see right here that the teeth are pointing down, that is going to help the hair in the cut actually lay down for you. So you're working for yourself instead of against yourself. We're going to go right to that weight line again. And there you are working with your reversible blender, and you can see that the sides of this cut are a lot more streamlined. Okay, who's ready for another tool? So often I see the reversible blender being my best tool that I can go for, and it's going to really help me, especially if I'm nervous to do a scissor over comb just by itself. The reversible blender helps me blend out any weight lines, and it just looks seamless. I have another tool that I often like to go for if I have finer hair or blonder hair or hair that doesn't need as much weight taken out. Now that tool is going to be my 14 tooth point cutting shear. So this shear, it's wonderful because it tends to push the hair along while these blades on the top are the cutting blades. So I get more of an organic cut into feel. So this becomes really helpful in an area where your guest may have a cowlick. So we know cowlicks, we call them cowlicks, that's colloquial, but they're really growth patterns, right? So the 14 tooth point cutting shear, we can use in the area where there is a growth pattern without elevating the hair. So the more that we elevate the hair, the more that we tend to kind of explode this growth pattern that's happening in the back. And we don't necessarily want to do that on a lot of our barber cuts or our pixie cuts. We want them to lay down. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna point the head towards you so you can see it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our 14 tooth point cutting shear and we're going to use that in the same direction as before. We're gonna have the teeth pointing down, and we're going to look at the growth pattern and follow along the direction of the growth pattern while we're like slide cutting. So we're moving the shear and our finger at the same time. The best hot tip for those explosive growth patterns that you aren't able to get to lay down, now you are. Rather than take them too short to where they explode, go ahead, leave them a little bit longer and slide cut through them with your 14 tooth point cutter. I think you're going to find that it makes a world of difference. We've really been enjoying seeing a lot of these shapes that are Barber cuts or pixie cuts that have a little bit more length through the front. What we are finding is that with a lot of these shapes, there are folks that are wanting a little bit more lift through the front. They want it to be a little bit more dynamic rather than the floppy haircuts of years past. So let's give you a hot tip that you can come in here and get this lift or this pushback really, really simply. Are you ready? All right, come here. We're gonna take a diagonal back section. This diagonal back section is going to become our area where we're going to blend. I'm gonna go ahead and separate it off right here with my dry cutting clip so I can work on this section individually. So as I have this diagonal back section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate it out at a horizontal 90 degrees, and then I am going to place my blending shear in it and back comb with my blending shear. So in this situation, I want the hair to lift up. So with my blending shear, instead of the teeth facing down, I'm going to flip them so that the teeth face up. So that lift that it's going to give will push. I'm going to insert the shear about halfway down that hair strand, cut and back comb, cut and back comb, cut and back comb, cut and back comb. All right, let's do it one more time on this side. This bluntness of this section is exactly what we're going to come in here, and we're going to shatter that a little bit to leave those shorter hairs pushing those longer ones to give it that dynamic lift we're looking for. So the elevation again is at 90 degrees horizontal. We have a diagonal back section. The teeth on our shear are going to be facing up. We're going to come in halfway down, cut and back comb until we run out of a little bit of hair. Go ahead and take your comb, take it vertically, and we can start to get any of those hairs out of the way. And as you can see, we've put enough texture in it just with two sections to allow this hair to have the lift that our guest is looking for. Let's see it on the other side with the 14 tooth point cutting shear. So just with a few sections per side, we have put in enough texture here to go ahead and lift the sheet. Can you imagine how great it's going to look with product? So if there's anything that we can leave you with here, it's use your tools for your best advantage. We have given you some hot tips today that we hope are going to make blending your Barber cuts and your pixie cuts so much easier and so much more fun in the salon. Hopefully you take at least one or two things with you, and we can't wait to see you again next time.